Hello everyone, Books with Banks back again to continue this series where I take Booktubers and I put them into a survivor game simulation. The first part of the video is linked below, and that one we went through the first 5 of 16 people voted out, and the first vote after the tribes kind of shuffled around. So the Booktubers left in the game on the New Dragons tribe are Jimmy from the Fantasy Network, Scott from Bald Booktuber, Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, Daniel Green, Raf Blue Text, and Library Ladder. And then the new Unicorns tribe was Bookborn, Iskar Jarek, Jake Bishop, Alex Tall Guy Reads, AP, and Murphy. And the new Unicorns tribe lost the last tribal council, and Alex, AP, and Murphy were able to figure out by sort of pretend infiltrating Bookborn, Iskar Jarek, and Jake Bishop. They were able to figure out that Murphy was the target. Alex played an idol for Murphy, and they all sent Bookborn home. So now there are 11 people left in the game. All right, so our 6th round, the new Unicorns win this next challenge, sending the new Dragons to Tribal Council. So that other of the new mixed up tribes sends them to Tribal for the first time in their new configuration. And basically what this means is that both swap tribes are taking turns. But meanwhile, what's happening with the new Unicorns before we get to the Dragons and their vote, what happens with the new Unicorns, everyone's very impressed with how well Murphy, Alex, and AP played the last round. Jake and Iskar aren't too bitter, but Jake takes more of an active role in trying to strategize and getting good with the tight 3 former Dragons team members, because after the merge, who knows, his closest ally, Library Ladder, might be voted out by then. So Jake Bishop is really trying to build some other relationships just in case that happens. But no official alliances were established there yet. But because the new Dragons lost the challenge, and again, the new Dragons are, let's see, who are they? It's Jimmy, Scott, Mike, Daniel, Raf, and Library Ladder. So what happens here is Library Ladder is wondering if Bookborn was voted out because Jake flipped over to work with the Dragons, and so he knows how strategic his closest ally is, and this gives Library Ladder all the motivation he needs to kind of jump for it or go for it and shake things up and make it not such a simple 4 former Unicorns versus 2 former Dragons to get out Jimmy or Scott. So Library Ladder approaches the 2 Dragons, promising to work with them for this vote, and he's arguing that both Mike and Daniel can be intimidating as the most successful Booktubers in the game. This trio brings in Raf because he doesn't seem to have any real strong bond with either Mike nor Daniel, and this becomes the new 4. They're not sure who they want to go after at first, but then, of Mike or Daniel, but then Mike can see the writing on the wall, and he definitely doesn't want it to be him, but he also doesn't want to have to play as idol. So he reassures Daniel that he'll play the idol for him if he gets any inclination of which way the vote is going. Daniel thinks at least 2 of them, and hopefully Raf and Library Ladder, or at least the 2 of them, and hopefully Raf and Library Ladder are going to go after Jimmy, but Mike doesn't intend to do so. In fact, he starts talking with Library Ladder and Raf to ask that everyone just please vote Daniel out instead. And so the voting breaks down like so, and Mike doesn't play his idol. Daniel votes for Jimmy, but Jimmy votes for Daniel, Scott votes for Daniel, Library Ladder votes for Daniel, Raf votes for Daniel, and Mike votes for Daniel, and so Daniel Green is voted out 6th and 11th place. Next up, very quickly here on this episode, we get to the merge. Yay! So both tribes merge now that they're down to 10 people. Now it's an individual game, but of course some alliances still hold firm from the pre-merge phase. Important to note, we have 5 former Dragons here and 5 former Unicorns. So The new tribe name is the Phoenix Tribe, and everyone that's made it this far, Jimmy, Fantasy Network, Scott, Bald Booktuber, Library Ladder, Ref Blue Text, Mike's Book Reviews, Jake Bishop, Iskar Jarek, Murphy Napier, Alex Tall Guy Reads, and AP Critical Dragon. So those 10 are our 10 merge contestants. Congratulations, guys. Okay, so going into our 7th round and first round of the merge, Murphy actually wins the first individual immunity challenge. So AP, Alex, Jimmy, and Scott, remember these 4 dragons that kind of united like way early in the first vote of the game. AP, Alex, Jimmy, and Scott, they reunite, congratulate each other on making it through the time they spent apart. This is still a really strong alliance of 4, the 4 dragons. Library Ladder and Jake Bishop, they reunite, congratulating each other on making it through their time apart as well. This is still a very strong 2-person alliance, the GGK alliance. So the 4 Dragons Alliance considers their new connections, and to at least make sure they have an even amount of votes with the unicorns for this first vote, and to be on good terms with Murphy since she won immunity, they continue to embrace her as a new member, a 5th member of their alliance, and they agree to kind of show that they support her now, or that they want to work with her. They agree to vote off whoever she wants to. And Murphy is wary of the Iskar AP connection that formed during the tribe swap phase, and kind of the bond they had over Malazan. And so Murphy wants to target Iskar. The rest of the 4 dragons agree to this, including AP. Library Ladder and Jake, meanwhile, agree to bring on Mike as a 3rd alliance member, as A, they suspect he might have an idol, and they want to be on the right side of when or if ever he plays his idol, and B, they're hoping that Mike can kind of be a meat shield for them, so that if the 4 dragons ever target their alliance, they'll go after Mike before they go after either of them. So now we have a GGK duo plus Mike and the 4 dragons plus Murphy. No one wants these 2 opposing sides to kind of go to blows quite yet, now that they've just made the merge, and so they decide for an easier, kind of safer vote to either vote out Raph or Iskar. And Murphy, with the 4 dragons, she's already expressed that she wants to get rid of Iskar. Meanwhile, Raph and Iskar, they're trying desperately everything they can to get some traction with their former unicorn tribe mates, but Library Ladder and Jake aren't really budging on their current game plan. Raph and Iskar still decide to target AP at first, as it seems like he's the most vocal of the 4 Dragons Alliance. Whether or not that means he's the leader, we can't really say, but Iskar knows that he might be burning a bridge by targeting AP, but he's kind of in a lose-lose situation here anyway. Library Ladder and Jake talk to Raph, convincing him he doesn't want to be on the wrong side of the merge vote, and so then the voting goes like so. The votes are cast. I ask if anybody wants to play their idol. Nobody plays it. Remember, Mike's the only one that has an idol at this point. So Iskar votes for AP, but then unfortunately Raph votes for Iskar, Murphy votes for Iskar, Alex votes for Iskar, Scott, Iskar, Jimmy, Iskar, AP, Iskar, Library Ladder, Iskar, Jake Bishop votes for Iskar Jarek, and Mike's Book Reviews votes for Iskar Jarek. Iskar Jarek is voted out 7th and 10th place. Alright, so now we get to the 8th round. And in this round, AP, the Critical Dragon, wins the next individual immunity challenge. The 4 Dragons Alliance seems to be running the show at this point, and they're feeling better and better, establishing a strong Final 7 deal with the GGK plus Mike Alliance. Ideally, this 7 runs the game to the end, and if that's the case, who do they want to cut this round? Who do they want to make the first member of the jury? The 2 people that aren't really in this kind of loose 7 of the 2 sides merging are Raph and Murphy, even though they both kind of voted with everyone the last vote. Before we get there, though, to the vote, Library Ladder and Jake have a serious sit down and start brainstorming ways in which they can make up their tight alliances or their alliance's numbers deficit in the 7, so that they have some shot at making it anywhere near the final 4, and that it's not just the 4 dragons there. And they like the security that this final 7 idea promises them, but they also worry that they'd be voted out in 7th and 6th place. So they sit down with Raph and Mike, and they try to get a stronger, more secretive, tight group of 4 established, using the fact that the dragons want to get rid of Raph and Mike next to get these 2 on their side. So publicly, Library Ladder and Jake and Mike are just working with the 4 dragons, but in actuality, they're pretending to be okay with the 7, all the while having Raph in their back pocket to try and shake things up, to keep numbers somewhat even. Also, something else going on right now, Alex, Tall Guy Reads, approaches Jake Bishop because Alex is suspicious of why they're so okay with joining an alliance in which they'd be in the minority. Jake explains that yes, this is a bit of their hesitation, and to keep them close, Alex offers up Murphy's name, Murphy's head, as a show of good faith that the dragons are willing to take out their own, even though she's not strictly one of that original alliance of 4. And Alex is also worried about the great storyline that Murphy is building for herself and how much of a threat to win she might be if she makes it all the way to the end. Jake is happy with this, but a little, still cautious because a few rounds ago Alex played an idol to save Murphy, and he's still not sure if that was because they are really tight or if that was just to keep Dragon's numbers intact during the tribe swap phase of the game. But really, Jake is more happy than not with this kind of secret alliance kind of partnership he's made with Alex. And Jake and Alex make an agreement to always discuss strategy, at least amongst the 2 of them, before any vote, because they recognize they are 2 of the biggest strategists from their respective alliances, and they're also kind of both playing much subtler games than a lot of the other people. They're going to sort of secretly watch each other's backs from here on out. So Alex tells the other dragons that the former unicorns are only comfortable with moving forward with the 7 if they get rid of Murphy, but then they're fine getting rid of Raph and Mike in the next and the following votes. Murphy is told the plan is for the dragons to run, keep going with their majority, and she thinks they're voting out Mike as the biggest threat. Jake and Library Ladder ask Raph to throw a stray vote elsewhere so as not to give away that they're much closer with him than they want the dragons to think. So the voting goes like so. Again, Mike holds on to his idol. Raph votes for Scott. Murphy votes for Mike, but then Library Ladder votes for Murphy. Jake, Mike, Alex, AP, Scott, and Jimmy all vote for Murphy. Unfortunately, Murphy is voted out 8th in 9th place, and she becomes the first member of the jury. All right, moving on to our 9th round, 3rd round of the merge, I guess. Raph wins individual immunity, this time much to the dragons' chagrin. The dragons were really hoping to vote for Raph or Mike this round, and they're not too sure whether or not Mike has an idol. So yeah, starts to become a very tense round, and it's becoming more and more clear to the 4 dragons that the unicorns aren't as flexible as they thought last time with the last vote, and they don't actually want to get rid of Mike yet. Again, everyone kind of thinks Mike might have an idol, and that Raph would have been the most likely person that Jake and Library Ladder wanted to get rid of. But maybe they wouldn't even have done that, and now we'll never know because Raph just won immunity. So the 4 dragons are heavily targeting Mike, but Mike makes it well known that he very well might be holding on to an idol, leaving the only 2 vulnerable unicorns in the dragon's eyes as being Jake and Library Ladder, the 2 that they've been working the closest with. So ultimately, the 4 dragons decide they're going to target Library Ladder because Alex doesn't want them to target Jake because of his secret deal with Jake. But even though the 4 dragons are actually going to target Library Ladder, they keep trying to make it sound like they're going after Mike because if Mike has an idol, maybe he'll play it. He'll get spooked and he'll play it. On the flip side of things, the unicorns are trying to get the dragons to turn against themselves. They're trying to talk about how powerful AP has been, and at least speaking on behalf of their group, if not outright in leading them. Alex's name is thrown around because he did have that cool idol play, but Jake convinces his side to not go after Alex. So you have 4 people targeting Library Ladder, whilst pretending to target Mike to hopefully flush his idol, and 4 people targeting AP. At Tribal Council, heated debate ensues about old tribal loyalties and tribal lines, and then the vote happens. Again, very boldly, Mike holds on to his idol, even though he's kind of teased everyone that he has one. And he's suspicious of how obvious the dragons tried to make it sound like they were voting for him. So, 4 votes for Library Ladder and 4 votes for AP. It's a tie. Everyone revotes except for Library Ladder and AP to try and see if anyone wants to avoid the tiebreaker rules. And the revote comes out exactly the same, 3 versus 3. Everyone's still voting along those same lines. And now, because it's a deadlocked vote, and again, apologies for those of you who don't watch Survivor, ties can be a little bit complicated, but because it's a deadlocked vote, as per Survivor rules, in addition to the person with individual immunity, again, that's Raph this round. So in addition to Raph, now Library Ladder and AP are totally safe. Because it's deadlock vote, they were the ones that were getting the votes, and no one can make up their mind, so they're safe as well. Raph, Library Ladder, and AP. The other 5 are vulnerable. Of the 5 being Jimmy, Mike, Alex, Jake, and Scott, they all have to draw a rock out of a bag, and whoever gets the bad rock, they are just eliminated from the game in this random game of chance. I believe Survivor kind of constructed these tiebreaker rules to, way back in the day, to discourage ties, but sometimes the alliances are so strong and really want to stick together like we had in this case. So yes, these 5, Jimmy, Mike, Alex, Jake, and Scott, all have to draw a rock out of a bag, and very sadly, Scott draws the bad rock, and he's eliminated 9th and 8th place, and becomes the 2nd member of the jury. Alright, so now we have our 10th round, or final round that we're going to talk about in today's episode. In this round, Jake wins the 4th individual immunity challenge. We are in the final 7 now, and we have 3 former dragons, AP, Jimmy, and Alex, and we have 4 former unicorns, Jake, Library Ladder, Mike, and Raph. Everyone's getting more and more nervous about Mike's idol and Mike's threat level. Library Ladder and Jake are considering jumping back with the dragons to have 5 people, enough to split the votes on Raph and Mike and hopefully get rid of the idol. Either Mike plays it to save himself or he doesn't play it and he goes home. Mike approaches Alex, saying he's guessing the GGK boys and the 3 dragons are going to split the votes on himself and Raph, so he successfully kind of sniffed out what's going on. And Mike promises Alex that if he can make it 3 on Raph and 2 on Mike, instead of the planned other way around, 3 on Mike, 2 on Raph, if Alex can promise Mike that, then Mike can make sure Alex makes it to the final 4 ahead of his other dragon allies. So keep that deal kind of in the back of your mind. Raph knows there's a split vote plan, and he's just hoping that Mike gets the most votes and doesn't actually have an idol. So what happens? The voting, again, Mike holds on to his idol, doesn't play it for himself, kind of banking on his deal that he made with Alex. AP votes for Mike, Jimmy votes for Mike, Raph votes for Mike, but then Mike votes for Raph, Alex votes for Raph, Library Ladder votes Raph, and Jake votes Raph. So Raph Blue Taxed is voted out 10th, in 7th place, becoming the 3rd member of the jury. Alright, so there you have it. That's how far we'll go into the merge in this phase of the game, or in this episode. I hope everyone whose Booktube channel, whose name I'm using. I hope you're enjoying, what's going on with the game, how the votes are going. I hope I haven't, mischaracterized anyone. Apologies if any order I've given or justification I've given for why the votes have gone a certain way. Apologies if any of that's rubbed any of you the wrong way, but I'm still having a ton of fun kind of coming up with this backstory for why these votes happen the way they do, and I hope everyone's having a good time in watching these. Only one more episode of this Survivor Booktube game, and we're down to the final 6, and we'll go through all of the last few votes and the jury voting on which of the final 2 they want to win the game. We'll go through all of that in the next episode. Again, just a brief recap, everyone that's left in the game. We have AP, a Critical Dragon, Jimmy from the Fantasy Network, Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, Alex from Tall Guy Reads, Library Ladder, and Jake Bishop. Those 6 we have in the game still. Please also feel free to comment down below who you think, based on the narratives that I've been giving everyone so far, who you think might have a good shot at winning. And remember, Mike still has that immunity idol. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.